Yeah, very good morning, guys. Very good morning, everyone. Am I audible? Yeah, good morning, all of you. Good morning. Last day, we have just been completed up the discussion with jQuery. Just I showed you like how to use the jQuery in your applications along with Ajax. But still, we'll see more examples on this. No issues. We'll just talk on more examples on this. I given you 2 examples already, but still we'll see more examples on this. So, guys, the next topic what we are going to discuss right now here is today we are just going to start up with the discussion of hold on a second, please. Mhm. Yeah, I did not upload the Northwind database, right? Yeah, still after the class, I thought of uploading, but by end of the class, by the power problem, and I could not do it. I'll do it now. But many of the people were asking. Okay. Okay. Yeah, guys, I just uploaded the Northwind database. Yeah, you have the Northwind database available. You can download. Fine, guys. So today, yeah, we are going to start up the discussion with today we're going to start the discussion with a new concept called as Web API. So we're going to start the discussion with a new concept called as the ASP.NET Web API. So what is this ASP.NET Web API? What is this ASP.NET Web API? Okay, basically, this is very, very important thing here. So what is ASP.NET Web API is actually this is all about consuming resources from a remote computer. This is all about consuming the resources from a remote computer. For example, yeah, let's assume like this. Okay, let us assume like this. What is it? You're building an application, a web application. You're building a web application. Or I'll say you're building an application. And this particular application is a shopping cart application. It is a shopping cart application. So in the shopping cart application, you have a credit card transaction. Okay. So understand, in the shopping cart application, you have a credit card transaction. There is a credit card transaction, what you have in the shopping cart application. So because you're just going to have a credit card transaction, this application, so this particular application requires, so if you assume this as a web application, so how the application will be used? So the client will be opening a browser. Browser will send a request to the web server. And now the processing will be done with the web server. And this web server may be internally contacting a database. Yeah. When you do a shopping tomorrow, if at all you go to history, all your history comes there. Like all the previous orders, what you placed, everything will come. You see Zomato, you see Flipkart, you see, all these things, we have a history button. When you go to the history button is going to show you your past orders. So to display the past orders, I'm just going to deal with the database. To deal with that, I just require some history to deal with the database. Okay, so when you're doing the transaction now, end user opens a browser, will be viewing the products by contacting the web server, and now you're required to make a payment. To make a payment, what do you require? You require a payment gateway. Now, suppose the customer is doing a transaction with an SBI card. The customer is doing his transaction with a SBI card, SBI credit card. Now, tell me, your web server, does it access to SBI database? Do you have access to the SBI database? Is anyone there? So I don't have an access to the SBI database here. So in this particular process, basically completing this transaction is important for you as a developer of the site, as a owner of the site. Suppose it is your particular site. Okay, as a owner of the site, completing this transaction is important for you. For you, it is very, very important. Okay. And second important thing is, it is going to be important for the bank also. Yes, guys, the bank is giving a card. When the bank gives the card to you, the bank want this transaction to be done. So business for the bank also. There's a business for the bank also. Bank also wants the transaction. But because the bank wants business, will the bank give access to the database to you? Will the bank give access to the database to you? Is the bank going to give access to the database to you? Because bank is getting the business now. It is getting the business. Why don't you give access to your database? They won't give. Why? Security. Security reason. Even though they are going to have business from that, they are not going to give the access to the database to you, because that's all going to be a security threat. So from the web browser, contacting a web server, and this is in turn contacting a database. And don't forget, this database is your database, not a bank database. This database is yours. Okay. And now this all present on one, this is all going to be your application. So understand, this is your application. So all these three, okay, they can talk with each other. But to complete this transaction, you want access to the database of the bank. So let us assume like this is the bank's system. Let us assume like this is the bank system. Okay. And here, here you have the bank's database. This is the bank's database. Okay, this is the bank's database. And now to complete the transaction, you want access to the database. So this web server requires an access to the database, but the bank doesn't provide you access to database. It doesn't give you. So it doesn't give you access to the database. When I stop talking, I stop with the talking here. Why it breaks? Just to check your network connection. Yeah. So just observe, this web server want to contact this bank's database to complete the transaction. This is the bank machine, and this is your system. This is the shopping cart, environment. This is the environment of the shopping cart. Okay, this is a shopping cart environment. And what is this? It's a bank's environment. This is bank's environment. Bank environment means bank's machines and all. Bank environment. Okay, now your server requests to contact a bank database to complete the transaction. Are you getting my point? Guys, are you following me? Yeah. Now, bank doesn't give access to the shopping cart environment. See, this bank database are not access to this web server. The bank database is not access to this web server. But completing this transaction is important for the shopping cart as well as bank also. For the shopping cart site and bank, for both of them, this is important. But if I give access to the database, there is a security threat here. So to overcome this particular problem, guys, what we used to do is they build an application here. To overcome this particular problem, what we do is an application is going to be built up here. This is an application. And now what will happen, Yeah, you'll be building an application. And after building an application, like this web server will contact this application. Carefully observe. This web server is going to contact this application. And this application will be contacting the web server, this database server. This application will contact. So what will happen? This web server is sending a request to this application, and this application will contact the database. And after the and then it will get the results. And finally, the results are sent back to the web server. Did you understand? Without giving a direct access to database, they built an application here. And a web server will be talking with this application. This application will contact the database, gets all the information required, and sends it back to the web server. Did you understand? And now tell me, do you know how to write the code under the web server? సరే రెడీ అవ్వండి 10 కదా అప్పుడు చెప్తాలే క్లాస్ ఇంకా కంటిన్యూ చేస్తే మీరు ఆటో వెళ్ళిపోదు లేకపోతే వస్తా ఓకే సో ఇఫ్ యూ జస్ట్ లుక్ అట్ దిస్ వెబ్ సర్వర్ is going to contact this application, and this application will in turn contact the database. Now, do you guys know how to write the code for this web server? Come on, yaar, fast. Do you know how to write the code for web server? Means in this process, forget about this one. Forget about this application. Listen, forget about this application. Do you know how to build an application for the web server to web browser to contact with web server to contact with the database? Do you know the shopping cart environment coding? Forget this one here. Do you know this code? Do you know how to work with this? That's what you're doing from the last 2 months. From last 2 months, you're learning about that only. Web browser connecting to web server. And from the last 1 month, web server connecting to database, providing the data to the web server. You know this. Okay. Now, do you guys know how an application connects with the database? Do you guys know the coding for an application to connect with a database? Yeah, you know that code. You know that code now. You learned in C#, you learned in MEC. In both the 2 places, you have learned it. But what you require to learn is 2 things we need to learn now. First one, how these applications are developed and how this server is going to contact this application. Did you get my point? How to build this application and how this server is going to connect or communicate with this application. Understood, all of you? Our discussion is all about building this application. So how do we build this application? Okay. Basically, we call this as distributed application. We call this as a distributed application. I repeat, guys, we call this as a distributed application. So now in this process, the web server will connect to this application and perform this one. So all our requirement is how to build this application. Okay, now, and this application is running under the bank environment. Remember, it doesn't run for you under the client environment, or it is not going to run under the shopping cart environment. It is going to run under the bank environment. Security reasons, it will be running here. So the question is all about building this application, how to build those applications. What we call this as a distributed application. How to build. Okay. To build distributed applications, we have various options available in the market. That came time to time. I repeat, to build distributed applications, we have various applications available in the market that came time to time. Various different type of applications just came into the market. It's not like only one. There are variety of applications that came into existence into the market. Okay, so many are there. And guys, I just wanted to tell you that like MVC, like a web, sorry, Angular. You guys are attending for Angular in the evening? Are you guys attending for Angular in the evening, 7:30? Yeah, if anyone is, I think everyone is given permission, or is anyone having a blocker? Everyone is given a permission? Yeah, I spoke to the management. They said that they will be arranging another batch, but it is taking a lot of times. No. It is taking a lot of time. So that's why I just part with the management and ask them to give the permission. You are allowed to the batch. You guys can attend for that class. Yeah, Arvind will give you. He'll give you the permission. Okay. So I spoke with. Meanwhile, only demo classes are done. I think they'll be giving videos to that, and you'll be given the permission. Okay, because you're getting late for you. Also, it is important to complete the course. So that's the reason. Just ask them to give the permission for this particular batch. Okay, so you're all allowed for the class. Okay, guys. Yeah, have a look. To build distributed applications, we have various options available in the market. To build distributed applications, we have various options available in the market that came time to time. Okay, what are the various distributed applications that came into the market time to time? First, long back, guys, like 80s and 90s, 90s, I'll say 90s, long back in the 90s, to build the distributed applications in the 90s, we have distributed technologies available in the market. We have distributed technologies available in the market, like RPC from C++, RPC from C++, DCOM from Visual Basic, next remoting, RMI from Java, remoting from .NET, so guys, listen. In the 90s, to build the distributed applications, we just have various options available, like RPC from C++, DCOM from Visual Basic, RMI from Java, remoting from .NET. They used to build. So using this, they used to build this application, and the web servers used to talk with the application and get their results. Okay, now? So this is the first option what they have. Okay. Now, drawback with distributed technologies is both client and server should be of the same language only. Should be of the same language. What is that? Who is the client and the server? Guys, look at this picture and tell me who is the client and the server here? Come on, look at this picture and tell me in this communication, who is the client and the server? Web server is the client, not a web browser. I just look at it. We are talking only about the application development. We are talking here about the application development. Don't say again about the web browser. That over. That is already done. I'm talking about this communication. See my cursor. I'm moving this cursor like this. So here, the web server is the client, and this application is the server. These two are talking. Client server here. The web server is the client and the application is the server. Again, this application is the client and the bank's database is the server. Multiple clients and multiple servers are there. See, first, here web browser is the client, web server is the server. Again, web server is the client, application is the server. Application is the client, bank database is the server. Understood, all of you? Yeah, your bank application is the server. And the web server on the shopping cart is the client. The web server in the shopping cart is the client, and the application in the bank is server. So these two should be developed by the same language. See the headache now. So if the shopping cart is developed by .NET, the application also should be developed by .NET. If the shopping cart is developed by Java, application also should be developed by Java. Did you understand my point? So like this, they must be developed by using the same language here. This is the first option what we have, the distributed environment, distributed technologies. Okay. To overcome this particular problem, after 2000, we got a concept called, we just got a new concept called as web services. We got used in the market called web services. So what is this web services? A web service also is going to be the same thing. So a web service is a class, that contains all the application code in it, application logic in it. So any application like a desktop application or a web application or a mobile application can consume the web service using consume the web service. So listen, guys. After 2000, the industry came out with a concept called web services. What is a web service? A web service is a class that contains all the application logic in it. So any application like a desktop or a web or a mobile application can consume the web service. Did you guys understand that? we can develop web services by using any programming language like Java, C Sharp, Python, etc. Host them on a web server. Host them on a web server. Okay. And the good thing here is, any application that is developed by using any programming language can consume the web service. Guys, read this carefully. The second point. So look at this one. Look at this. Initially, these applications are developed look at this. Initially, these applications are developed using how they're developed. They're developed using distributed technologies. Okay, so notice that initially these applications are developed using distributed technologies. Using the distributed technologies, they built these applications in the initial stages. Okay, I said you the drawback with the distributed technologies. What is the drawback with distributed technologies? The client and the server both should be of the same language. How is it possible? Yeah, I cannot develop the client and server with the same language. Tomorrow, different clients will be there, different types of clients will be there. So it is not going to be possible to develop all with the same. So that is the problem now. That is the problem. Later, what happened? Later, what happened? To build this here, what came now? In this place, we have web services now. Now the new option is web services. Is it clearer, everyone? And what is the great thing with the web service? These web services can be developed by using any language and can be consumed from any language. Tomorrow, this web service is developed by .NET. This web server contains a web application developed in Java. This web server contains a web application developed in Java. But still, the Java application can consume the .NET web service. Say reverse. This web service is developed by using Java. In the web server, there is an application running using .NET, but still that application can talk with the web service. Any doubts? Okay, but see, drawback with web services. Drawbacks with web services. What are the drawback? To consume a web service in any application, guys, remember this one, in any application, and all of you don't forget, these applications here can be a desktop application, can be a web application, or can be a mobile application also. These applications can be a desktop apps. These applications can be web apps. And these applications can be mobile apps. Okay, so no problem, any type of application. To consume a web service in an application, first, we need to add the reference of web service, the reference of the web service in our application. We basically called as service reference actually. Guys, do you know how to add a reference to an assembly? Do you know how to add a reference to an assembly or not? We call that as an assembly reference. We already know that how to add a reference to an assembly. So we go to add reference window and we can just add a reference. Okay. We guys know how to add a reference to it. Okay. So if you look at this, this is some existing project. Don't worry about it. Right click on that. We got an option called add reference, not reference. We have one more thing called service referencing. You guys till now used reference, correct? Till now you used a reference. Now you have another option called service reference. You'll give a service reference. And now you require to give the URL of that service here. You require to give the URL of that service here. Whatever is the service, the URL of the service should be given. Once you give the URL of the service and click on the go, what happens? It will be connecting to, means, say, look at this. Where's the picture? When you're developing the application under the web server, see, look at this one. Where I'm pointing, concentrate. When I'm developing this application, I require to add a web reference to this web service. When I'm developing this application, I require to add a web reference to this service. Did you understand? So, once the reference is added, immediately the metadata of the web service is downloaded into our machine, and with that information, it will generate a class. It will generate a class known as proxy class, so that we can create the instance of this proxy class and call the methods that are present in web service class. Guys, read this point, all of you. If you have any confusion anywhere, let me know. Come on, concentrate on it. If you have any confusion anywhere, let me know. I'll clarify. I said, you read the point and tell me if you have any doubts, then I'll clarify. But you did not answer and you're telling no voice, sir. I just said you one question. Read this and tell me if you have any doubts. But no one responding and telling no voice, sir, no voice, sir. I'm waiting for you. What is the meaning of proxy in English? What is the meaning of a proxy in English? Yeah, it's like a substitute. It's like a substitute. Means a representative. It is like a representative. See, you're purchasing some land in your hometown. You're in Hyderabad. You are doing some job, earning some good money, and you are purchasing some land at your hometown. So now you purchased it and you require to go for registration. But unfortunately, on the day of registration, you have an urgent work in the office and you're not able to go. You have some urgent work and you're not able to go. You're not able to go to that. Okay. So when you have some urgent work and not able to go, can your father, on behalf of you, complete that registration process? Can your father or brother or any blood relation of you, on your absence, can they complete that work for you or not? Why no, Sai Kumar? Yes. If you want to sell, that is not possible. If you want to purchase, it is possible. So your father, on behalf of you, completed that registration process. I repeat, your father, on behalf of you, completed that registration process. Your father completed the registration process on behalf of you. So now understand, it is purchased for you. It is on your name only. But who done the registration on behalf? Your father. So he's called as your proxy. He's called as your proxy. So listen. Now, actually, look at this picture. The shopping cart application, all of you, the shopping cart application will be first adding a reference to the web service. The shopping cart application will first add a reference to the web service. When a reference is added, this class will not come to the client. Without coming to the client, the information of the class. Information of the class means metadata. What is it? What is the name of the class? What are the methods in the class? What are the descriptions of the what is the signatures of the method? All that information called metadata. You learned about this metadata in C# recollect. That metadata will be sent to the shopping cart application, and there with all that information, one class will be created. We call it as a proxy. So tomorrow in the runtime, that proxy class will go and communicate with the web service. You will be creating the instance of the proxy class, and that particular proxy class will in turn communicate with the web service. Actually, the web service class is not coming to the shopping cart. The web service class, without coming to the shopping cart, it is sending its proxy to the client and telling, you work there on behalf of me. And in the runtime, these two will communicate. Who will communicate? Proxy and web service will talk with each other. In the runtime, the proxy and web service will talk with each other. Are you clearer? Yeah, someone asked, what is the name of the proxy class? The name of the proxy class is the same name of your actual class, suffixed by SOAP client. In the sense, suppose if the service name is test, if the service name is a test, okay, this is the web service. Now my application added a reference to it. A proxy class is created. The proxy class name is test SOAP client. This is the proxy. Are you clear? The web service class name is a test. The proxy class name will be test SOAP client. If the name is a demo SOAP client, that will be the name. Okay, now? So we'll be having a doubt here. So what is the drawback here? What is the drawback now? Can you understand what is the drawback? Yeah, that is also a different. That is also going to be a point. The difference here is first thing is this proxy class should be created. This proxy class creation is very, very important. That is the first important thing. And the second thing is tomorrow, if the service got updated, that changes won't be reflecting into my application, my proxy. Yeah, if the web service got updated, the changes are not going to be reflected. It means regularly required to keep on changing this reference. Are you clear or not? I require to completely keep on changing the references, because if the original proxy class changes, the changes are not going to reflect to the application. So this is the problem. Okay. I hope everything is clear. Why copy constructor came here? Why you're talking about copy constructor? You're not creating an instance. You're not creating an instance. You're creating a class. Why copy constructor you're talking? You're not at all related. You're confusing yourself. That's don't bring something. If it is related, I would have said you that. Huh? Okay. So this is the main problem, what you have with the web services. And to overcome this particular problem, recently, from 2010 onwards, after 2010, after 2010, they came out with a new concept. See, if they're public only, you can call here. Generally, when you're talking about communications like this, they will be public only. There is no point of talking about that again separately. If they're public only, you can call now. After 2010, a new concept came in the market. What is it? REST API. After 2000, a new concept came into picture called as REST API. Yeah, we have a concept called REST API. So this REST API is the new thing or the new approach, what we just have in the market for building the distributed applications. So this is the current trending now. After 2010, we have what security you want? Tell me what security you want. So are you talking about everyone consuming it? Huh? When they create these web services, they will have the authentication and authorization policies. When the request is coming from the client, they require to supply the credentials. When the request is coming from the client, they require to supply the credentials. If there are open services means open to all, free for all. No security, directly we can call. If there are any restricted services, the service will provide you, means you need to purchase it. No one will give anything free of cost. Now, suppose tomorrow, if the bank is giving the service to the shopping cart, they will provide you the authentication also. So when the shopping cart application is sending a request to web service, it should pass the credentials to it. Are you clear? If they are free for all, no restrictions. If there are any restricted services, then compulsory, they will also give you the credentials. You can connect with it. See, you have a mutual agreement between the shopping cart and the bank. So bank will give you. No, some services will be there. You need to purchase them. For example, in your application, you're building an application here. You want to display a weather forecasting on the website. You're developing a website for Hyderabad. Okay, for Hyderabad, you're developing a website. Purely information about Hyderabad. On the top of that, you want to display the Hyderabad weather report. If at all you want to display the Hyderabad weather report, will you start a weather forecasting center? Will you start a weather forecasting center to predict the weather? No. There are so many companies in the market which do it. One best example is AccuWeather. Do you know that? AccuWeather, ACCU weather. Whenever you try to see the weather report in any Google or anywhere, you will get the weather information from there only. AccuWeather. So what you can do, you can purchase their services. When you pay the money to them, they will provide you a web service. So that Your website can contact the web service and get the weather information for them. But that is not free service. That's a paid service. You're required to purchase. When you purchase, they will give you the credentials. So use the credentials. You send a request there and you will get a response from there. Got the point? There will be some open services, free for all. There will be some paid services where anyone can pay and get it. And there will be some services which comes in mutual agreements. There will be some services which comes in mutual agreement. Here, see, the bank is going to provide the service to the shopping cart application. And this is not a paid service. These are mutual agreement. What mutual agreement? The shopping cart also will get the business. The bank also will get a business. So there is a mutual agreement between them. So these are not going to be paid services now. Got the point? I hope everything's clear. Okay. So this is how the communication used to happen with the web services. Later, I said you there is a drawback with this also. And to resolve the drawbacks here, to resolve this particular drawback, going forward, we have a new option available in the market, that is REST services. We got the new concept of the REST services. Or the REST API. We got REST API called as REST services. Okay, so this is the third option, what we are using right now in the industry. What we call them? REST services. What we call them is the REST services. So what are these REST services? The REST service is a new concept or a new approach that came in the market. And right now, everyone is using this particular REST services. Everyone is using the REST services right now to build their applications. So what exactly is REST, and what is the advantage with this particular REST? Okay, I'll tell you. So we have the REST services. WCF is both. WCF is REST. WCF is different. Okay, so WCF is also going to be a part like a REST service. WCF has two options here. With WCF, we can build distributed as well as REST also. Okay, so so this is the new requirement now. Sorry, this is a new approach what we have, that is the REST API. And now you can develop your applications with the REST API. And the name of this REST API, in .NET is called as a Web API. The name of this REST API in .NET, we call it as a Web API. So Web API is nothing but a REST API service, is the REST service. The Web API is nothing but a REST service. I did not explain anything about the web API or a REST service. I'll talk about it. Okay. But you are clear with the first two things now. Distributed technologies in the 90s, web services after 2010, 2000, and now we are using REST API, the REST services. And what is the name? Web API. Okay. So what is this web API and what are the advantages with this? And what makes this web API more popular now? What makes the web API more popular? Okay, I'll tell you. Have a look, guys. ASP.NET Web API. API stands for Application Programming Interface. Is a framework for building HTTP services that can be accessed from any client, including browsers, desktops, and mobile devices. The first to understand here, we can consume these services from browsers, means web applications, desktop applications, and also mobile applications. It's an ideal platform for building RESTful applications on the .NET framework. It is an ideal platform for building RESTful applications on the .NET framework. What is RESTful? We'll tell you whole. In computer programming, an API is a set of subroutines, methods, protocols, and tools for building software applications. Putting in simple terms, API is an interface. API is an interface which has a set of methods that allow programmers to access specific features or data of an application, operating system, or other services. So basically, an API is like an interface. Or an interface means UI. Interface means, no, I'm not talking about the interface type in C#. I'm talking like interface means just like a UI. An API is your interface, which is going to have a set of methods. And using these methods, we can consume the features of an application or an operating system or anything. You know that, guys, you're building an application, a shopping cart application. Once the cart is confirmed, you want to send a WhatsApp message to the customer. Or if you carefully listen, your application is a shopping cart application. Customers are going to do the shopping there. Once the things are completed, I wanted to send a confirmation message to the customer's WhatsApp. You used Book My Show. You guys used Book My Show. When you purchase the tickets in the Book My Show, you will receive that information in your WhatsApp. See? And how that happens exactly means WhatsApp provides an API. WhatsApp provides an API which is purchased by Book My Show. Using that API, Book My Show will send the message to WhatsApp, and WhatsApp will send it to the customer. Did you get me? How can Book My Show send a message to my WhatsApp? How Book My Show can send a message to my WhatsApp? Is Book My Show going to add all your numbers under its WhatsApp and send a So millions of customers are there. Book My Show is not going to add all your particular numbers in their WhatsApp and do it. WhatsApp provides one API. So Book My Show will purchase that API, and after purchasing that API, Book My Show will send a message to WhatsApp server. WhatsApp server will send it to its customer. Means Book My Show is not directly sending here, it is sending to WhatsApp. WhatsApp will receive that and it will send that information to the customers now. That's how exactly it works. Okay now? So Web API, as the name suggests, is an API over the web, which can be accessed using HTTP protocol. It is a concept and not a technology. Web API is a concept, guys. It's a concept for communication, that's all. We can build Web API using different technologies like using Java, .NET, etc. For example, Twitter's REST API provides programmatic access to read and write data using which we can integrate Twitter capabilities into your application. Do you know that? Basically, Twitter. You know Twitter. I'm developing an application. And in my application, if I post any message, that should be shown on Twitter. In my application, just like what I spoken now about the WhatsApps. WhatsApp. Same way Twitter also provides you. Just like that, Twitter also provides you. So what I can do is I can integrate the Twitter API into my application. So when customer does any activity, I can send that information to customers at Twitter. I can send it to customers Twitter account. Just like I can send to customers WhatsApp, I can also send it to the customers at Twitter also. Are you clearer or not? Twitter has it, WhatsApp has it, all of them provides you these APIs to you, but you're required to purchase them. You're required to purchase and consume. The ASP.NET Web API is an extensible framework for building HTTP-based services that can be accessed in different applications on different platforms, such as web, Windows, mobile. It works the same way as an ASP.NET MVC web application, except it sends data as a response instead of use. And all of you know how to build an MVC application now. You all know how to build an MVC application. Same like this, you'll build a web API, guys. Same like how you build a web MVC, you'll build a web API. But tell me in MVC, if a request goes to an MVC application, what will it send back? If I send a request to an MVC application, what will it send? A view. Perfect. It will send back a view. You build a web API also like an MVC application also. Web API is also built like an MVC application. What is the difference, you know? When you send a request here, it won't send a view, it will send data. It will send data. Here you understand now? See, this shopping cart application will send the customer details to the application, and this application will contact the bank database and sends a response to the bank telling you this card is valid or invalid or something. It is going to send the data, not the view. తినవా కాన్ఫ్లెక్స్ స్ట్రాబెరీ తెచ్చు వేడి చేసుకోబోల్ టైం ఉంది కదా ఎప్పుడు 24 గంటలు ఇంక బయట తింటావా రోజు బయట తింటున్నావు నా దగ్గర లేవు డబ్బులు అందులో ఉంటే తీసుకో నా దగ్గర లేవు ప్రతి సండే బయట తింటున్నావు రోజు ఎక్కడ తిన్నానంటావు లాస్ట్ సండే కూడా ఆ రోజు ఫోన్ చేసి నేను మా ఫ్రెండ్స్ ఉన్నారు బయటకు వెళ్ళి తింటా అని చెప్పి తిన్నావు కదటి సండే వస్తే చాలు బోర్ మీద పోయి తింటున్నావు అంతే అది అవి తింటావు కదా ఆ ప్యాకెట్లు ఓట్స్ బోల్డ్ ఉన్నాయి తెచ్చింది నేను నాకు చెప్తాటి లేవని మన మెట్రో నుంచి అది చెప్తాను మమ్మీకి పని ఉండదు నీకు పని ఉండదు బయట తినేయండి సో బేసికల్లీ if you just look at this particular thing, this web service, the shopping cart application will send all the customer enters the credit card details here. Customer enters the credit card details. What are they? Card number, user ID, date of expiry, all the details the customer will enter. When the customer enters all this, the shopping cart application will send the details to the application. The application will contact the database. Now it will verify this card is valid or not. And then the result will come back to the web server. Are you guys clear? Okay. So guys, all of you, if you just understand, if you just understand this particular thing, what is that? Yeah. Um, so I hope you guys understood my point here. Like, what is the service? The service will provide not the views. The service will provide the data. It is going to provide the data. That's what exactly it does. So you guys observe this. Web API as a name sorry. The ASP.NET Web API is an extensible framework for building HTTP-based services that can be accessed different applications on different platforms, such as web, Windows. Anyone can use here. It works the same as an MVC web application, except that it sends data as a response instead of use. It is like a web service or a WCF service, but the exception is it only supports HTTP protocol. So it is just like a web service or a WCF service. It is just going to be like HTTP protocol. You just Google and prepare it here. I can't do everything what you want. You want it, just to Google what is the difference between a web service and all the things, and you prepare it. Everything you want to be spoon-feeded, do something. You can Google and read. So my point is web API. I will tell you, these are outdated. Why the new one comes? I'll just talk about web API, not going into all the background and prepare a list and give you all. I given the information, you explore more. Okay. So you look at this one. This is a web API. See this picture carefully. This is a web API, a web application, a mobile application, a Windows Forms application. Any of these applications can send a request and get the response. The response can be sent back as a JSON, because it's all about data. It's all about data. The data can come for you in a JSON format or an XML format or any other format. The data can come for you in a JSON or an XML or any other format. Any other format, the data can be sent. But all the applications can send the request and get the response. Yes, runs on any platform. It runs on any platform. No recording will be given to the class. I already explained. I said you must listen to the class. No recordings will be given. That's why I posted the message also in the group. I won't give any recordings. Okay. So guys, concentrate on this. Is this picture clear, everyone? Yes, Devaguna. It runs on any platform, cross-platform, because WCF is also an approach. That is that came in between web services and web API. That came in between web services and web API. If you want to learn about it, you can just read the articles online. For today, for everything, you find online articles here. So just go through it. The small topics. I mean, the whole course you cannot get it. But understanding about WCF and all, you can just go through YouTube and you can just go through the articles in the YouTube. Okay, fine. Now listen, background of Web API. Why did Web API come into picture? Connectivity between applications is a very important aspect from a business application perspective. Nowadays, there are a lot of mobile applications and single page applications are being created. And such application needs a strong service end that can provide these applications with the data and CRUD operations on the data. Guys, is my voice not clear? Rohit, check your internet connection. Rohit, I think problem is from your side. Check your internet connection. Okay, same. Today, all of you, listen, every application in the business point of view, we need some connectivity between the application. All of you, you know Zomato. You're using Zomato, you're using all these food apps now, Swiggy and all. And otherwise, you're just going to use Uber. See the Uber application, it's a mobile application. When you open the Uber application, it's Uber when you try to book a cab or a bike or something you book there. Anything. You book a cab or an auto or a scooter, something you're going to book there. When you book them, it will be showing you the information of all the vehicles that are available to you near. Have you noticed it? The Uber basically shows you all the nearest vehicles to you. Suppose you're searching for a car, it will show you all the cars which are in the near area. It will show you all the bikes which are in the near area. It will show you all the autos which are in the near area. Uber shows you all these things. Okay. So how that information is visible to you? Because in the background, Uber has a service. Your application will talk with that service and gets the information and shows to you. Did you understand? Uber has a service and your application will talk with the Uber service and the Uber service will get. And Uber will use Google API for location tracking. Yes, sir. Yes, Sai Kumar. Uber will use Google API for location tracking. First thing is your mobile application talks with Uber. Uber talks with Google. Yeah, the Google API. The Google today you just say the Google Maps is an API. Understood all of you? All these applications in the background are using APIs. All these applications in the background uses APIs. And these APIs will help you in communication. Okay. So guys, now if you just understand this APIs, all this will be communicating with the APIs and the APIs will provide you the things. Is this paragraph clear, all of you? Is this paragraph clear? Okay, next point. In this process, what came first? ASP.NET Web Services came first. I already said here, before Web API, we have web services. What came first? ASP.NET Web Services came first. Traditionally, web services using SOAP and XML provided a great way of creating connected web applications. SOAP is a standard XML-based protocol that communicates over HTTP. We can think of SOAP as message format for sending messages between applications using XML. It is independent of technology, platform, and language too. ASP.NET Web Services provided an excellent way of creating SOAP-based web services. So what is created first? What we created is SOAP services. As I already explained you, we created a web services, also called SOAP services. What is it, SOAP? SOAP is a protocol using which the applications communicate with each other. Using which the shopping cart and the application communicates with each other. SOAP is a protocol. And the communication format, the data transfer is done in XML. The data transfer is done in XML. In XML, they used to exchange the data between the applications. Okay, SOAP is a protocol. So traditionally, web services using SOAP and XML provided a great way to creating connected web applications. SOAP is a standard XML-based protocol that communicates over HTTP. We can think of SOAP as a message format for sending messages between applications using XML. It is independent of technology, platform, language too. ASP.NET Web Services provide an excellent way of creating SOAP-based web services. Are you clear? Any doubts? The first option is SOAP. Come on, read and let me know. Hey, వచ్చిన వస్తాలే. I already explained the drawbacks of the web services, and again you're asking. I already explained now. Yeah, but still, read it. Problem with SOAP and web services. SOAP offered an excellent way of transferring the data between the application, but the problem with SOAP was that along with the data, a lot of other metadata also needs to get transferred with each request and response. Actually, the main problem with SOAP, I want to send some information from the service to the client. I want to send some information from the service to the client. Some information like true or false. I want to send a simple data, true or false. But along with the data, lot of other information also will be carried from the service to the client. With a lot of information that will be transferred from the client to the server and server to the client. We call all that as a metadata. All that information, extra information we get. This extra information is needed to find out the capabilities of the service and other metadata related to the data that is being transferred coming from the server. This makes the payload heavy even for small data. Even if you want to carry a small data also, lot of information will go up and down. That is the first drawback. Also, web services need the client to create a proxy on their end. These proxies will do the marshalling and unmarshalling of the SOAP WSDL and makes the communication between the applications and the web service possible. The problem with the proxy is if the service is updated and the proxy on the client is not, then the applications might behave incorrectly. I already said you this problem, remember? I already said you this particular problem. One more thing is also there. What is that? Heavy payload. Heavy payload always carried between the browsers and the servers. Come on, guys, read this paragraph and tell me if you are clear or I have any doubts. Understood everything? Anyone has any doubts? Any words confusing? Any words confusing there? Okay, now. So let me continue to the next. Marshalling, yeah. Marshalling and unmarshalling. Yeah, expecting that only. What is it? Marshalling and unmarshalling. Marshalling and unmarshalling means actually your application is an object-oriented application. But the data transfer is done in which format? XML. The data transfer is done in a XML format. So first what will happen? Your objects are first converted into XML, transferred over the network, and on the other side, that XML data will be converted back into objects. And this process is called marshalling and unmarshalling. Marshalling means converting objects to XML, and unmarshalling means converting XML to object again. Understood? That's a conversion. Yeah, marshalling is a conversion, converting object to network understandable format, network to object again. That is what basically we call marshalling and unmarshalling. Anything still confusing? I could see 150 people in the classroom, but only 3-4 people are responding. The rest of all the people are sleeping, I think. WSDS stands for Web Service Description Language. It is metadata. It is metadata. It is just metadata. Web marshalling and unmarshalling is built in. That is automatically done by the web service for you. The web service will do all that work to you. You don't require to bother. You don't require to write any coding further. You just develop a class and all the things will be automatically taken care. And for that, you are not responsible for any coding explicitly for that. That is all implicit coding. Okay, SOAP, WSDL. WSDL stands for Web Service Description Language. It stands for Web Service Description Language. That is nothing but metadata. That is nothing but the metadata. And that metadata only is converted into proxy class. Okay. The next thing what came now is REST. The next thing what came is REST. Introduction to REST. REST stands for Representational State Transfer. This is a protocol for exchanging data over a distributed environment. The main idea behind REST is we should treat our services as resources, and we should be able to use a simple HTTP protocols to perform various operations on that service. For example, when we talk about a database as a service, in all object-oriented languages, you have object only. In all object-oriented languages, data is object only. Na? Okay. In all object-oriented language, data is an object only. That is what? Yeah. So understand the main idea behind REST is that we should treat our services as resources, and we should be able to use simple HTTP protocols to perform various operations on the resource. For example, when we talk about database as a resource, we usually talk it performing CRUD operations. See, basically the concept of the REST is we'll be treating the services as resources. For example, Database is a service. Database is a service. What do you do on a database? CRUD operations. We perform CRUD operations in the database. Like what? Create means insert, retrieve, select, update and delete. Now the philosophy of REST is, from a remote service, all these operations should be possible, and they should be possible using simple HTTP protocols. Now the basic CRUD operations are mapped to the HTTP protocols in the following manner. All of you understand? All of you are aware of CRUD now? All of you are aware of CRUD. You people know about CRUD. CRUD stands for CRUD. Tell me, CRUD means create. Create means insert. I already explained all these things to you. Read. So the second one is retrieve. Read or retrieve. This is nothing but select. Next, update. And next, delete. Okay. Now, basically, how this works, how this exactly going to work, Okay, how this works, See, till now, you learned about the HTTP request, get, post. You know these two, get and post. Now, apart from get and post, we have more other HTTP verbs called put, delete. Whenever you send a get request to a API, whenever you send a get request to a service, understand, whenever you send a get request to a service, this get request is internally mapped with insert. Whenever you send a post request, I'm sorry guys, the get request is mapped with select. The post request is mapped with insert. The put request is mapped with update. And the delete request is mapped with delete. Sending a get and post request, all of you? All of you are aware of sending get and post request already. Are you clear? You send a, you just sending, you get and post, Now new things are update and delete. Nothing, guys. If the request is a get request, that will perform a select operation and provide you all the data. If the request is a post request, it will perform an insert. If the request is a put request, it will perform an update. If the request is a delete request, it will perform delete. So like this, your HTTP protocols, patch is also put only. Patch is also update only. We have so many things. Yeah. Represental state transfer means basically that what? Represental state transfer means that is nothing but using these HTTP keywords and performing the operations. All of you, just have a look. For example, when we talk about the database as a service, we usually talk in terms of CRUD operations: create, insert, retrieve, select, update, and data. Now, the philosophy of REST is that for a remote service, all these operations should be possible, and they should be possible by HTTP protocols. Now, the basic CRUD operations are mapped to the HTTP protocols in the following manner. Read it, get. This maps to the retrieve part of the CRUD operations. This will be used to retrieve the required data from a remote service. So if at all you send a get request means you will be getting the data from the service. If at all you send a post request means this is an insert operation. If at all you're sending a put request means that is an update operation. If at all it's a delete request means that is a delete operation. So how can I change this particular request? I'll show you all those things practically. I will show you. We have actually a tool from Google, guys, called as a Postman. We have a tool from Google called as Postman. Patch is also update only. Patch is also update only. Patch also update only. This is a Postman, guys. And I'm showing you a live real-time applications here. So basically, these are all the web API services. I'm working for a company. And we have a client. We just have a client, Brother Printers. It's a very big company in Japan, having its operations throughout the world. Brother Printers. So for that, like if you see, recording is going on, but they don't give recordings. For that, if you just observe it, all of you, there are so many third-party services what we are using. All these are the services what we are using. We can consume all the services in our application. For every service, can you see here, post, get, like this, you'll see different things there. All of you, can you understand this? Showing you like a post, get something. This is a get method. This is get. When I select this, automatically here you got get here. When I select this, automatically you got post here. So when you're sending this request, we can just use this get, post and all. I will develop a service and I'll show you how to consume from the Postman and all these things. I'll show you. But understand, here we have different options here. We have a get request, post request, put request. Put and patch both are update only. Delete request, like different types of requests are there. If at all the request is a get request, it will perform you an insert. It will perform a select. If at all I send a post request, it will perform an insert. If it is a put request, it will perform an update. If it is a delete, it will perform a delete. But for all, the URL will be same. For all, the URL will be same. Means the service is same. So based on the type of request, a different method will be called on the service. A different method will be called on the service. I'll show you in practical. Hold. We'll just talk all these things in practical. Did you understand me? You must ask the designers. I don't know why HTTP has given you so many options like that. I cannot talk about it. That is not part of your web API or something. Mainly these four only. In web API, these four only. Who designed HTML? We should ask them why they have just given put to get to post all these options. I don't know. That is separate. In API, I have only four. In API, I have only four. What are the four? Get, post, put, and delete. This get is mapped with select, post is mapped with insert, put is mapped with update, and delete is mapped with delete. That's it. Okay. So you see, let's take a simple example for some remote service that contains a database. That contains a database for list of movies. And the list of the movies can be retrieved with this URL. If I send this URL like this, a request to a service, suppose, for example, it's a service. When I send a request like this, basically this is going, and the request is of type get. The request is of type get. What will happen, It will get me all the data. It will get me all the movies information. It will get me all the movies information. Suppose if I say /123. It is going to get a movie with the ID 123. Read this. Okay. Guys, you'll be having some few confusions. I will clarify all those particular things when we code. When we go to the coding, we will clarify all these things. See, since these are get requests, since these are get requests, data can only be retrieved from the server. To perform other operations, if we use a similar URI with a put, post, and delete operation, we should be able to create, update, and delete. That only I shown you. When I'm going to change here, all of you, when I'm going to change here, get, you see the URL is not changing. You see post, you see put, you see delete, you see delete. The URL will not change, but the type of request will change. Based on the type of request, it will do selecting, inserting, updating, and deleting. You'll have a doubt. Sir, if it is insert, how do I send data? I'll show you. Hold. But just understand. What is it? Select means get. Okay. Insert means post. Update means put. Delete means delete only. Delete means delete only. When I'm writing the code, I'll show you practically how to send the data. The data process, I'll talk later. Sorry, not later, when I'm writing the code. Okay. The get. Oh, in case of get based on query string, that see the URL is same here. It is only just in the last we are adding that particular value there. That's a URL is same only. Only thing is you will be adding a query string there. That's all. URL means up to here na. The URL will be same. Query string will get added. That's all. Okay. Okay. What is the drawback with web services? The drawback with web services is along with the data, a lot of other information also will be carried forward, traveling to and fro. Along with the data, lot of other information also will be carried to and fro. Are you getting me? But when we are discussing about the API, the only the data will be transferring to and fro, but not any extra information, only data transfer. So your things became lightweight. It became lightweight. Second, there is no need to have a proxy at the client end because it is only data that is coming from the application. application can directly receive and process the data. Second thing is we don't require any proxies to be created. Now tell me, when there is no proxy, anything created, if the service is updated on the server, in the next request, will I get the latest or not? I don't have any proxy, nothing here. What I have is a URL, that's all. I sent a request to the service. I got the response. Something was modified on the server. If something is modified on the server, nothing problem for me. Why? Tomorrow, if I send a new request, I'll get the latest information automatically. Point clear? So these are the two drawbacks what we have. These are the two drawbacks what we have in our where in web services. And now these two drawbacks are resolved in the REST. These two drawbacks are resolved in the REST. In the REST API, these two drawbacks are resolved. So understood? The REST API or the REST services, the problems are resolved. Now you'll ask a question now. What is the question? Sir, how to develop a REST service? How to develop a REST service? To develop a REST service, you can develop in Java, you can develop in .NET, you can develop in Python, anywhere you can develop a REST service. Suppose you want to develop a REST service in .NET, we have two options again. What are the two options? One is WCF. The first option is WCF, that stands for Windows Communication Foundation. Came into existence much later than the web service. It provided a much secure and major way of creating the services to achieve whatever we are not able to achieve using web services. Other protocol support and even duplex communication with WCF, we can define our services once and configure it in such a way that can be used via HTTP, TCP, IPC, and even message queues. We can even configure WCF services to create REST services, that is WCF REST services. So listen, when did web services came in the picture? I said you 2001. Okay, 2000, after 2000. 2008, WCF came. WCF came. And using this WCF, we can build distributed applications. Using WCF, we can build a distributed application. And the same WCF can also be used for building REST applications also. The same WCF can also be used for building REST applications also. Mainly, the point what I'm trying to tell is WCF is not designed for REST services. WCF is not designed for REST services, but WCF also provided an option for developing REST services, and building REST services with the WCF is very complicated. We can do it, but this is complicated. That's why we don't use it. So what I'm trying to tell is, in .NET, to build REST, we have two options. What are the two options? The first option is WCF. Second option is Web API. Did you get my point, all of you? To build a REST service, Microsoft given you two options to you. One is WCF, one is Web API. WCF is old, API is new. Actually, what is the difference? Or that is a big doubt you'll have. WCF also can be used for building a REST service, but coding process is very complicated. The coding process is very complicated. So that's where, to make the developer's job easier, Microsoft introduced Web API. Otherwise, WCF, Web API, both can be used to build a web service, REST service. The problem with using WCF services, we need to do a lot of configurations in a WCF service to make it RESTful. WCF is suited for scenarios where we want to create a service that should not support special actions such as one-way messaging, message queues, duplex communication of the service that needs to conform to WCF specification. Whereas using WCF for creating RESTful service, using WCF for creating RESTful service that will provide fully resource-oriented service or HTTP is little complex. Still, WCF is the only option for creating a RESTful service if your limitation to work with .NET 3.5 framework. If you are going for 3.5 framework, the only option what we have in the market for creating a REST service using .NET is WCF. So what exactly is the meaning of it? Web service doesn't have a web API, REST API at all here. Satya Prakash, where did I say web services here? I did not say web service at all now. Then why are you building web service for web REST API again? Web service doesn't provide REST API. Web service is completely different. To build REST API, we have two options. What are the two options? WCF, web API. What is first one? WCF. But coding is complex there. Coding, configuring, all these things are going to be very, very complicated with WCF. So later, Microsoft has given you web API, making the architecture simple. To make the REST services simple, we use web API. WCF can also be used, but outdated. Did you understand, all of you? Web service cannot be used for REST API. Do anyone have any doubts, any questions? Okay. So as I said, you don't think like you cannot use WCF. The web service cannot be used. The web service is completely different. See the picture. I separated all for you. First, distributed technologies, long back. Afterwards, web services. Now, REST API. Why again you're bringing web service here? Web service is different. Web API is different. Both are two separate things. See the picture. Web service is different. REST service is different. Web service drawback is lot of data should be transferred to and fro. Lot of no, I will stop the session. I'll stop the session. No, guys, I'll stop the session because I explained a lot. It will be confusing for you. So still what you guys do is read the notes, try to Google differences between web services, REST API and all, and just so that tomorrow I'll teach you the programming part. No. Actually, this is my personal PC. This is my personal PC on which I'm talking. So if I start creating a service here, tomorrow I cannot show in the classroom again. Coding is very simple here. Coding is very simple. When you start your coding, you will really understand one thing. This much confusion we faced with the architecture. But when you go to coding, you will really see how simple and easy is it. Simple code. That's what Microsoft made with a web API. But if at all you want to build a RAM REST service with a WCF, Swagger, Postman, still we have one more tool is also there here. Swagger is there, Postman is there, one more is there. Fiddler, yes, Fiddler. All these are same. These are basically called as I did not use it, Kalyan, anytime. PG Redmina. I did not use, I'm not aware because so many tools here, everything we can't use. I will not show Fiddler here. If I want, I'll show, I will not show Swagger here. Swagger I'll show you with, with core Swagger. I'll show you with code. I'll show you Postmania. I'll show you Postmania. I'll show you Fiddler. Fiddler, Postman, I'll show you. Okay. REST API and array web API. Sai Kumar. What's this one? Web API and REST API are same, are different. REST API and Web API are different, same. That is wrong, Satya Prakash. That is wrong. Web service is not a REST API. At this time, few companies working in. Yeah, because see, here I made a point. If you understand, read this point, all of you. Read this point. Himo, read that. Web API is a type of REST API. You're confusing. REST API is on the top. REST API is on the top. Under that, we have Web API. Means to build REST API has one option. .NET has two options. Python has one option. Just a minute. I'll show you. Just a second. How to build REST services in Java. How to build REST services in Java. I think their architecture name is something like a Spring or something. Spring. They use a Spring. Visual Studio, yeah. Visual Studio, you can build in Visual Studio, huh? If at all you want to build a Spring Boot, the Spring Boot is the RESTful service in Java. Okay, how to build REST services in .NET? How to build REST services in .NET? If at all you want to build a REST service in .NET, I just have multiple options here. What are they? I can use a WCF, I can use Web API. I can use a WCF, I can use Web API. Both can be used. Okay, same way, how to build REST services in Python. Just we need to explore like that. That's how we are to see. Everything you require to explore it like this. I think they use something called as the Django or something. I don't know. Flask. Yeah, Flask. For creating a REST API, they use Flask in Python. Are you getting my point, all of you? Okay. And see, someone asked me, sir, what is the difference between web service? You Google, guys, everything I can't spoon feed. You see, web service versus REST API, web service versus REST API. Go read the articles. API versus web service. What is the difference? Try to explore them. Okay, same way. You want to know about WCF versus web API. Come on, go. What is the difference between WCF and web API? Read. So everything, I will give you an idea. These are different. Later, it is your job to explore more. Okay, na? Okay. So finally, If at all you want to create a REST service using .NET Framework 3.5, the only option you have is WCF. The only option what we have is WCF. Now see what we got now, evolution of Web API. To overcome the above problems, Microsoft came up with ASP.NET Web API to facilitate the creation of RESTful services that can provide fully resource-oriented services for a broad range of clients, including desktop, browsers, mobiles, tablets. ASP.NET Web API is a framework for building ASP.NET Web API is a framework for building RESTful services easily and in a rather simple way. If at all you want to build a REST service here, use what? Web API. All of you. When you guys are creating a new project, when you guys are creating a new project, look at this, all of you. Create a new project. I'm not creating just to observe it. All of you, look at this. ASP.NET Web Application. Click on the next button. You know this now. You know this, all of you. And look now. All of you carefully observe. If at all you just see, you have Web Forms project separately, MVC project separately, Web API separately. Here we have 3 checkboxes. See, Web Forms. Look at this, Web Forms. This is for building a web application, Web Forms application. And under that only we can also create web services. Under this only we can create web services. We can create a Web Forms application. We can create web services also. Second option, every day we are using MVC. The second option, every day what you are using is MVC. You can build an MVC application. The third option is Web API, purely for building Web API. Then you have a doubt, sir, how to build web services? To build web services, you need to select Web Forms only. To build web services, you require to select that Web Forms only. That Web Forms only will provide you option for web service also. But to build MVC, you have MVC separately. To build Web API, you have Web API separately. But all of you concentrate on this. If I select Web Forms here, what checkbox is selected? Web Forms. If I select MVC here, what checkbox is selected? MVC. But if I select Web API, both are selected. See. Both are selected. Okay, now so both are going to be selected. Why? Because when I just use it, I can develop a REST service here, and also I can also go for developing a MVC also. Means that is also controller. I'll open and show you. But read the description, all of you. A project template for creating RESTful HTTP service that can reach a broad range of clients, including browsers and mobile devices. It is basically a project template for creating RESTful HTTP services. That's what I wanted to highlight. Are you clear? So we got a separate project, but we don't have any separate project template for creating web service. We don't have any separate project template for creating a web service. In Web Forms only, web services also can be created. But we have a separate project template for creating a web API. For API, we have a separate project template. So tomorrow when I create a project, what I will do, I will select empty. I will select web API. Till yesterday, what we done? Empty MVC, right? Empty MVC. But now I'll select empty web API. Tomorrow I'll show you the coding process. I'll select empty web API. And then I will create a web API. When you go to coding, you will really astonish. Sir, is it that simple? Yes, sir. Very, very simple. Very easy, very simple. Coding is very simple. Little bit confusing is only understanding about all the differences, distributed application, what web services, WCF, web API, difference, understanding that only will be a little bit confusing, but coding will be very simple and easy. Finally, let me end up with this. Let me end up with this particular discussion. What is that? ASP.NET Web API is an ideal platform for building RESTful services. ASP.NET Web API is built on the top of ASP.NET and supports ASP.NET request response pipeline. It is integrated with your ASP.NET. ASP.NET Web API maps to HTTP verbs to method names. Your method names are mapped to HTTP verbs. ASP.NET Web API supports different formats of responding data like a JSON, XML, BSON format, etc. Means when you're sending the data as a response, you can send it as XML format, you can send it as a JSON format, all formats are supported. We'll show you. ASP.NET Web API can be hosted in IIS, self-hosted, or other web services that support .NET 4.0. CM, Web API came in .NET 4.0, all of you. Web API came in which version? The .NET 4.0. That's why before 4.0, if you want to build a REST API, you're required to take the help of WCF, but very complicated. But if you guys are using 4.0 REST API, Himo, this is what you asked. Sir, still WCF is used? Yes, used. If your environment is a 3.5 or something, the WCF is only the solution to create REST services. And finally, ASP.NET Web API framework includes a new HTTP client class to communicate with the Web API server. HTTP client can be used in ASP.NET MVC application, Windows Forms application, console application, and other applications to communicate with the Web API. Nothing else. The last point is telling you, tomorrow, if at all you want to consume a API, to consume the API in your applications, we need to take the help of a class called HTTP class. This HTTP client, this client class will help you in calling a web API from your application. Tomorrow you're building a desktop application. You want to consume the API. You can take the help of the HTTP class. Come on, guys, finally read all these points and tell me if you have any doubts with anything. I'm not showing the coding now. I will show you the coding in the next class. We will wind up. Come on, read that and tell me if you have any doubts with any of the things here. See, when I'm giving the time, you guys are not asking. I'm telling you, read, ask. Later, when I'm continuing the discussion again, you're suddenly asking some question. Let's say, read carefully, take your time, and let me know if you have any doubts. I'll clarify. Self-hosted means IS Express. BSON is binary. BSON is binary. JSON is JavaScript object notation. That is binary object notation. They are binary format. Generally, see when you're transferring images and all, they will be transferred in binary format. WPF is also same like Windows. WPF is the same like Windows. Just like Windows, we have WPF. But in WPF, we have advanced features when compared with it. Yes, anything, any binary format. Okay, now, any more doubts? Any more questions? Okay, guys, I am winding up the session here. So tomorrow, I am going to teach you how to build these services. Okay. So have a nice day. We'll meet tomorrow. If a lot of info is sent using SOAP, continue the question, Shubham. The question is incomplete, Shubham. Yeah, yeah. The notes is in the classroom. Yeah, I'm just, this is my home copy. I have in the classroom. Tomorrow when I go to the class, I'll do it. Yeah, this what happened yesterday. After the class, I want to upload and the power problem, and I could not upload. That's why even I uploaded that the Northwind database also just now. No, no, Shubham, you're confusing. I did not say you. I did not say you. XML will use more data. I said your web service will use more data. Web service will transport load that more data. Data will come in XML. Along with that, it will send so many other values also. Along with that, it will send you so much of other information also. Okay, and that is not related with XML. Web service will send you XML and other things also it will send. That's why your option is there. If you don't want that XML, use JSON. I don't have any videos posted, but you go to YouTube here. In YouTube, you'll find a lot of videos on WPF, WCF, everything. You will learn about that when you go to Web API core. Why are you talking about what is going to come in the future? I said, you ask me any questions if you have in what I explained you today. Web API core will understand in Web API core. What is the difference? Then I'll tell you. Okay, guys, we'll wind up the session. Have a nice day. We'll meet tomorrow and we'll develop it. Do website uses compression along with. Did not understand. Do website. Did not understand the question, Shubham. Who designed the web API, bank application, or shopping cart? See, you are developing the shopping cart application. You are developing the shopping cart application. Bank, the bank will develop in the sense not employees of the bank. Tomorrow the bank is giving a contract for a, suppose you're working for a company, Infosys. You're working for Infosys. You are building the shopping cart application. Now this bank has a contract with Wipro. The bank has a contract with Wipro or TCS. Okay, the bank has a contract with TCS to develop the service. So who developed the service? TCS developed the service and hosted. And you are working for Infosys and developing the shopping cart application. So you will contact the application and you will get the response. They are not developed by the same. Assume like TCS developed this application and Infosys has developed the shopping cart. They will communicate with each other. Okay? URL, both are similar, guys. Both are same.